Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Hello. Welcome back to the EntreMD podcast. We are doing our legacy series, Business Lessons from My Dad, Dr. Chineme. And if you didn't listen to the first part, I think you should actually pause this and go back and listen to it. This is part 2. We're going to take it from here. And, like I said in the first episode, my dad lived such a phenomenal life. And I'm just like, I have to share this. And so we can learn all the lessons from it and learn from his legacy and glean from his wisdom. So if you missed the first one, go listen to it. And we're going to walk into the second one now. My dad was a man of habits, and he's really the most principled person I know. And I don't say that because he's my dad and he's not here anymore. And we say nice things about people who aren't here anymore. You're going to see what I mean. Like very, very, very principled. Okay. So I'm going to give you 7 examples, okay, of this principle thing. And then we're going to take a look like, so what does that mean for me? What does that mean for me as an entrepreneur? What do I need to tweak? What do I need to change? All of that. Okay. All right. So the first habit we're going to look at is his dietary habits. My dad always had a balanced diet. Always. And I'm 42 years old. So I've known him for a while, and balanced diet. He was not a junk food eater. I don't even know that I have any recollection of him eating at a fast food place. Any recollection whatsoever. None at all. And his philosophy was, if he's nice to his body when he's young, his body will be nice to him back when he's older. So he was very, very disciplined about that. I would like to say that I'm just like him. No, I have a fairly balanced diet, but, I still do other things here and there. But no, not my dad. No junk food, none whatsoever. And he typically skipped breakfast. So I guess by default, he lived, he did intermittent fasting, even though that was not his intention and that's not what he called it. But he would always skip breakfast. And he would do lunch and dinner, and it was always balanced, and he'd always drink a lot of water. And he did drink beer, but let me tell you this, okay? Because again, he's very interesting. This is why I'm doing 4 whole episodes on him. He would drink beer, and he would drink 2 bottles of beer. 1 brand, 2 bottles a day. That was his thing. And he would not do more than 2. He would not do less. That was just his thing. And he was in such control of it that one year, I think they did some really crazy price bump. And he just decided, you know what? I don't know that I want to drink beer anymore. And that was the last time he drank beer. Like, who does that? And that was it. That was just it. So very disciplined with his diet. Very disciplined. And the second one is going to sound a little odd, but he was very disciplined with his dressing. So you would have noticed some trends. Like Mark Zuckerberg is kind of like a one t-shirt guy, right? I like this t-shirt. I buy 10 of them. That way there's no decision as to what I need to wear. I just dress up and go do what I need to do because that's a distraction. Well, my dad was like that too. So my dad would walk into a store. He would see a shirt. He would try it on. He's like, this shirt fits and it looks okay. And he would buy 7 of them. He'd buy 7 of the same exact shirt. And we're like, dude, he did the same thing with shoes. Who does this with shoes? He did the same thing with shoes. He would try it on. This is good. It's comfortable. All of that. He'll buy 5 pairs. I mean, like, so what? You're going to wear the same pair of shoe forever? If you let him, yes. So actually on that one, we kind of banned him. We didn't let him do any shopping after some years. We decided, yeah, you can't shop. We'll take care of the shopping. And that's the way that worked in my house. But that was his habit. His third habit was exercise. And he did every sport available to him when he was growing up. So when he was in high school, he did cricket, he did soccer, he did track, he did all sports. That was his thing. He was very athletic. And as he approached adulthood, then he took on tennis, and tennis was his thing, hours and hours and hours, very physically active. And then later on, I want to say about 1990s onwards, then he adopted golf. And that's what he did until he was much older. So he was very physically active, very, very active. And he recognized that again as, I want to be healthy when I'm older, and he didn't just say that like, this is what I want, but he was willing to put the effort behind it. And between his diet and exercise, he really was very healthy. He had a family history of a lot of chronic illnesses, but he had very mild hypertension that he took, 1 pill a day for. And that developed, much later. I mean, like he was in his 70s when that happened. But otherwise, he was a really, really healthy man. And I said in the last episode that what he wanted was to die in his sleep. Like, he's like, I'm not going to be sick for a long time and all that kind of stuff. When I'm ready to go, I'm just going to go. And he always used to say that. And that's exactly what happened. And he had the habits to support what it is that he wanted. His 4th habit, I'm telling you, creature of habit, is sleep. The man went to sleep at a specific time. He woke up at a specific time every single day. Now, as he went through phases of life, the times were different. That's why I didn't say a specific time, but it was always pre-planned, right? So when we were younger, he'd go to bed at 10 and he'd wake up at 6 or 7. I think it was 7. And then so that way he's getting his 9 hours in. As he got older, he went to bed a little earlier, woke up a little earlier. So, but he always got his 8 hours and it was always set. Like it was always set. And so that was his habit. And I need to learn that because I'm still working on it, the sleep piece. And that was just an amazing habit that he had. And number 5, I put this as a habit because it's really, and if you're a parent here, this is something is worth copying, right? So it was this relationship with his kids, with us. And the part I'm referring to is he had no obvious favorites. Nobody knew. And I'm sure he had some like, oh, I really, I don't know, but he had no obvious favorites. He never played favorites with anybody. He seemed to treat us exactly the same way. And he did that intentionally because I heard him talk about it once, but he did that intentionally and it made us feel like We were all loved equally and he believed in us equally. And it was just beautiful that he could do that, especially because, culturally and in the time that he lived in, it would not be unusual for one person, for a parent to pick on one person, like this is my favorite and stuff like that. But he just never did it. He never did it. So that's just really cool. Really cool. The sixth habit had to do more with organization and cleanliness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My dad, cleanliness was just his thing. It was a little too much of his thing. We're like, oh my goodness. And so, beds made, everywhere clean, all dishes completely washed before you go to bed, all of this kind of stuff. He was a stickler for that stuff. And I mean, like, we're talking inspecting under your bed to make sure there's nothing under your bed, the whole 9 yards. He was a stickler for that. And he was very organized. Like, if you blindfolded him and you told him to dress up and get ready for work, he could, because he knew exactly where everything was. Okay. My mom is the exact opposite, and I took after my mom. So, but he knew where everything was. He was very organized, very, very organized. This is at 4 o'clock. This is very organized. And his seventh habit was his habit with TV. He interpreted TV as junk, right? He's like, oh, we watch the movies, they're just shooting and they're doing all this ridiculous stuff. He just decided it's junk, and he never watched TV. Now, during the Olympics, we could get him to come watch a few things, but nah, he just interpreted it as a time waster, and he just never did. He would listen to the news on his radio and all of that kind of stuff, but he just wouldn't do it. And if you think about the average Americans watching, this is pre-COVID numbers, 5 hours of TV a day. Think about all you can do if you could just shave off some of that, right? So he just never did. He never did. And what makes this so impressive is these are not habits that he had for a year or 2 years. These are habits that he had the entire 42 years that I knew him. And even as he got older, even as he was in his 80s, he still had these habits. And so what was the outcome? He had a really healthy life physically. He had great relationships with his kids. He had time for the things that mattered. I think it's his habits that helped him live life on his own terms. He said, I won't get sick. I'll just die in my sleep. And that's exactly what happened. So his habits led to the outcomes that he wanted. Now, for you, what does that mean? Think about it. What habits do you need to develop in your business? What are the things that people always be able to predict that you'll do, right? And you may go like, I don't know. And I want to give you some thoughts, right? Things that you can make as habits, and years down the line, you'll look back and you say, look, I made my dream business become my reality. And one of the reasons why is because of all these habits that I built. So one of your habits would be what in the EntreMD world we call RGAs, revenue generating activities, right? Do you have a habit of speaking? And when I say speaking, I mean speaking at events, being a guest on podcasts, being a guest on YouTube channels, doing Facebook Lives, hosting masterclasses and workshops. Do you have a habit of speaking, putting your message out there? Because if you have a habit, then the consequence is your audience keeps growing. But it can't be something you do once in a while. It's something that you do on a schedule. Like, oh, I'm going to speak 4 times a month, or I'm going to speak twice a month. But this is something that you do habitually, or something like networking. Because at the end of the day, your network is your net worth, right? So are you networking habitually? Are you saying every 2 months, I'm going to put myself in a room of people I don't know who are in a position to help me get better, help me build my business better? Are you networking? Are there any collaborations, joint ventures that you're doing with others? Your social media, is that a habit? Showing up intentionally, deliberately as an entrepreneur on social media. Are you sending out emails? I know so many people who have email lists and they don't have a habit, right? Can people say, I know every Monday at 8 o'clock, I'm going to get an email from her, right? Or from him. So I want you to think about that. Do you have revenue generating activities that are habits? Have you made them habits, right? Like a lot of these things we talked about them. We talked about social media speaking and collaborations during EntreMD Live. You can always go get the replay of it. It's entremd.com/event. And you can get the replay. And then you make that a habit. You make that a business habit. If you do, what will happen is your audience will keep growing. The number of people who want to work with you will keep growing, and they're going to, share the testimonies of what they're doing with others who also want to come. You will create a snowball, but it's tied to a habit, not something you do once or twice, but things that you do habitually. Now, there must have been times when my dad didn't feel like exercising, didn't feel like going to sleep at the right time, didn't feel like spending his time properly as opposed to watching TV, but it's a habit. And he applied discipline. And discipline means doing what you should, when you should, whether you feel like it or not. He did that. And you can do that. Okay. You can apply that to your business where this is my habit. These are my habits, my business habits. So that's number one, is revenue generating activity. The second one is, like improving your product. Do you have a habit of spending the time to improve your product? Now, when I say product, what I mean is whatever it is your business gets. So if you own a private practice, that experience that people have when you come to your office, that's your product, right? If you have a personal brand, that personal brand is your product. If you have a coaching program, that coaching program is your product, right? Are you improving it? Are you doing such a way when people come to your private practice, it's a better experience? The wait times are shorter. The staff have higher customer service levels. Is that what's happening? Can people come into your practice and say, wow, I was just here 6 months ago. So much has changed. So much is better. If you have a coaching program, can people come to your coaching program and say, man, can they look at you and say, oh my goodness, she's getting better. Like every time I see her, there's something different. There's something, she's up leveled. Are people saying that? Right? About your brand, are people realizing, I just can't ignore this person. Like he keeps moving forward. Can they say that? And this is a decision that you make. I have the habit of improving my product. The people who worked with me a year ago know that it is such a different experience now. In fact, when I hosted EntreMD Live, I hosted EntreMD Live almost a year after launching the EntreMD Business School. So there are people who had shown up and seen me every week. I'm there for the live sessions. I'm there in the Facebook group. They've heard a lot of my concepts. They listened to so many podcast episodes. And I made a decision. I was like, EntreMD Live is going to be so well executed, and the content is going to be so good, and the experience so good that even the people who are with me every week are going to be blown away. What is that? It's a habit of improving the product. And I'm happy that I pulled it off because they're like, oh my goodness, Dr. Una. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. The people who came last year and came this year, like, oh my goodness, that was the intent, because the habit is improving my product. So that's the second habit. So the first is revenue generating activities. The second is improving your product. The third is improving yourself as an entrepreneur. The most important part of your business is you, because when you get better, everything gets better. Everything. You may say, oh my goodness, my team sucks, right? Or I can't find a team, or, finding good people is hard. But let me tell you something. You as the entrepreneur, if you develop the skill, remember all business skills are just that, skills. If you develop the skill of hiring and firing and team building, guess what? You will have a better team. You'll have a better team. If you increase your capacity to believe for bigger outcomes in your business, you will have bigger outcomes in your business. If you improve your ability, your speaking ability, your business improves. Once you get better, your business gets better. So do you have a habit of improving yourself as an entrepreneur? Do you? Are you reading? Are you taking bold steps? Are you in the programs you're supposed to be in? Are you engaging and applying what you're learning? In the EntreMD Business School, it is set up in such a way that every single month you're challenged. Why? Once you get better, everything gets better. Everything. So, your revenue generating activities, improving your product, improving yourself as an entrepreneur. What if you had habits of doing this on a regular basis? What if you had habits of doing this on a daily basis? What will happen to your life? What will happen to your business? What will happen to all of it? A year from now, if you did this consistently, what will your life look like? What will your business look like? Would you have launched it? Would it have crossed first 6 figures? Would it have crossed multiple 6 figures? Would it have crossed your first 7-figure year? How many people would you have been able to help? What would the consequence of that business be for you? Will you be able to cut your clinical hours? Or will you be able to invest massively in real estate like you've wanted to? Or will you be able to take a month, 2 months off and just travel with your kids? It's all possible if you build the right habits. You make your habits, and your habits make your future. Okay? So I want you to take a moment and sit, and I want you to think, what RGAs am I going to do and do on a schedule? What am I going to do to improve what's my time to sit and work on my product? For me, I do that on Thursdays. I work on it. I tweak it. What am I trying to do? Make it better. Help people get results even faster. Help people get even bigger results. Make the process even simpler. I'm working on it. Right? And then those habits of improving yourself as an entrepreneur. I want you to think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to do these 3 things? Because if you do them, everything changes. Everything changes. All right. So that's what I have for this episode. And guess what? When everything changes, because it's a habit, is the gift that keeps giving. So it changes now, then it changes again, and changes again, and changes again. It snowballs. It's just amazing. Okay. So I want you to do this. One of the best ways to learn, one of the best ways of learning is teaching. So I want you to take whatever your biggest aha is from this episode. I want you to share it on social media, and I want you to use 2 hashtags, #EntreMD and #EntreMDLegacy. Remember, this is our legacy series, doing this in honor of my dad, and it will really mean a lot to me if you do that. All right. Okay. So I'll see you, my friend, on the very next episode of the EntreMD podcast. Go build our habits, and I'll see you then. Hey, if you love listening to the EntreMD podcast, I want to invite you to join EntreMD On Demand. It is my signature subscription program that gives you access to a library of business courses designed to help you do one thing as a physician entrepreneur, and that is to thrive. Just head out to entremd.com/on-demand, and I'd love to have you join us. See you on the inside.